When the last passenger service departed in 1972 and the platforms at this seemingly insignificant little station fell silent, many would have assumed that that would be that for Okehampton Station, one of the last outposts of the old London and South Western Railway's North Devon network. What was once a tapestry of railways from Plymouth to Ilfracombe had already been whittled down to next to nothing. Many were surprised that Okehampton even survived as long as it did. But what nobody could have seen coming was a plucky tale of survival against all the odds, heritage operations come and gone, and finally, nearly 50 years later, the full reopening of this charming little station on top of Dartmoor. So come and join me today as we experience history, the resurrection of Okehampton.
Good morning, people of the internet. It's about 20 to 7 in the morning on a Saturday morning in November, and I'm on a train, because of course I am. Why would I not have a lay-in on a Saturday morning and get up at a reasonable hour like pretty much everyone else wants to? No, Muggins here was awake at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning in November to get on a train. But it just so happens this particular train is a very, very special one, because this is the first regularly timetabled train to Okehampton in Devon since 1972. From this day onward, it's going to get regular passenger services again, and this is the very first one of those. Now you see why I'm up at such an hour on a Saturday morning. So, how about we make like my rather excellent public service broadcasting shirt and go.
Alright folks, this is it. After 49 years out of action, in and out of limbo, the occasional summer Sunday service when the moon is facing the right direction in the sky, off and on heritage services, constant questions about whether it would ever reopen for full service again. Welcome to Okehampton. We're here. And it's amazing. This is great. There was me thinking I was the mad one for getting up at 6:30 in the morning. Well, getting a train at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning in November. It turns out I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people here today. There's even a band and singers on the main platform to welcome us in. We were welcomed in by a marching brass band. It's really cool to see this much love for a station reopening and railways coming back. I got speaking on the train to one of the folks involved with the group campaigning for the reinstatement of services to Okehampton Station, and what a day it must be for them. What a day. It's not even the full route. We'll go into that and explore a bit more of that later when there's more sun and more tea in my body, more food in my body. But for now, what a victory. What a victory for everyone involved. Part of me selfishly was like, I really hope the atmosphere of the old place hasn't been ruined by the reopening and the renovation works. And yeah, it really hasn't. This feels like the most beautiful Time Warp station you could possibly want. All the original, the old school green British Railway Southern Region style signs, the old footbridge, it's all here. This isn't some facsimile. This isn't some token, just stick a prefab platform up and a bus shelter and make do with it. This station has survived all these years and persisted when many people thought it wouldn't. And now it's back in its greatest form. I'm really happy. I'm also very hungry, so I'm actually going to hop back on this train, go back to Exeter, get some breakfast, and then come down when there's a bit more daylight and properly show you around.
For past me, it's breakfast time. For the rest of us, it's time for a history lesson. Let's go over to the whiteboard. In the mid-1800s, a turf war had broken out in the southwest between two railway companies, the Great Western Railway and the London and South Western Railway. Both companies ended up intersecting at Exeter, and both wanted to get to Plymouth, but there was just one tiny obstacle in their way: Dartmoor. Going through it was impossible, so both companies ended up going around it. The Great Western Railway went south, along the coast via Dawlish, Newton Abbot and Totnes, and reached Plymouth in 1844. And once the London and South Western Railway made it to Exeter in 1862, they forged a route around the northern edge of Dartmoor via Okehampton, Tavistock and Barrow-Alston, arriving into Plymouth in 1876. Okehampton Station opened in 1871, just east of the spectacular Meldon viaduct opened in 1874, and quickly became a hive of activity as a junction for illustrious trains like the Atlantic Coast Express and the Devon Belle to pass through on their way to destinations like Bude, Ilfracombe, Padstow and Plymouth. Fast forward to 1963 and we all know what happens next. Doctor Who's evil cousin Dr. Beeching takes a meat cleaver to the British Railways map. And one area almost entirely wiped off the map altogether was the former London South Western Railway's North Devon lines. Surprisingly, Okehampton actually survived the initial bloodbath, but as all remaining westbound routes slowly disappeared, it was living on borrowed time, and services finally ceased in June 1972, just sort of 101 years after opening. Now, that really should have been the end of the story. However, the existence of Meldon Quarry just to the west of the station meant that the line itself stayed open, with the old station buildings laying dormant. Then in 1994, the line and quarry were sold to Camas Aggregates, which led to Devon County Council purchasing the old station from Camas for a nominal fee. By 1997, Okehampton was looking a lot more like its old self again, and with the Dartmoor Railway commencing heritage operations between Okehampton and a halt at Meldon Quarry, as well as a summer Sunday service operated between Exeter and Okehampton, a preview of what was to come, things were looking far more vibrant on the top of Dartmoor. In November 2017, the Department of Transport earmarked the route as far as Okehampton for full reopening, and on the 20th of November 2021, almost 150 years exactly after it first opened, Okehampton Station returned to full-time service. Whew! You got all that? Good. Now, with breakfast consumed, it was time to head back to Okehampton, and this time I had a guest with me.
So, sit rep. I came back to Exeter St David's from Okehampton, but I kind of bumped into someone on the way. It's
Hello
Simon
there.
Trains, or is it Simon Trains, or is it
Cyber Trades, Cyber
Sim
Trades,
Zero Trains?
something like that.
Yeah, there's something. Cyber Trains.
Yeah.
It's a cybernetic
No,
organism.
it's actually Simon Trains.
Yeah. Okay, good. We finally established that. Right. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
Excellent. It's been a long time coming. I feel like you being
has.
on the channel. You've been to Okehampton before, haven't you?
I have, yes, when it was under the Dartmoor Railway.
Right. So when it was a heritage
Yes,
line,
the heritage
right?
line.
Okay. So what was it like then?
Well, first of all, you can only catch a train there on a Sunday.
Yes,
And
the
it was
summer
like
Sunday.
4 trains a day.
Yes.
But it was good. It was a good atmosphere.
Yeah. Nice.
And getting shunted around to Meldon Quarry by a Gronk.
Hey.
So 8 shunter.
No, Class 08. You know we love Class 08 on this
Oh,
channel.
yes.
But now it's back in full service.
It is.
You're going to also check out some of the intermediate stations on
I
the line,
will,
aren't
yes.
you? Crediton,
Newton St. Cries.
Sires,
Because there's
whatever.
a lot of stations on this route that are underestimated as well. Not just
Yes.
Okehampton's reopened and got passages again,
Mm.
but there's other places that got more services stopping there.
My arm's starting to hurt now. Should we get the train?
Yes.
Let's go.
Simon stopped off at the request-only Newton St Sires station, later making a little history of his own by being the first request passenger to get on here for Okehampton since services resumed that very morning. Meantime, we headed back to Okehampton, and in the daylight, the beauty of this gorgeous reborn station really revealed itself.
Okay, so we're back at Okehampton. It's a far more reasonable hour in that there's daylight. There was me thinking that the crowds and the excitement and everything of this morning was for the morning service, like it wouldn't be like this all day. Nope! I was very wrong. There was no seats available at all on the train I got in here. It was heaving. The brass band and the jazz singers have headed home, which is understandable. You get a bit knackered blowing on things and singing all day. That didn't come out right, but anyway. As for the crowds, yeah, they're all still here. The train back to Exeter left about 20 minutes ago. Still lots of people here. Isn't this just great? Everyone's here and everyone's excited for a new station. Everyone's excited for a railway. The amount of love and hype this whole endeavour is getting, and this lovely old station is getting, it's brilliant. Locals are ecstatic that this station is back in full operation. People all across the country, train enthusiasts up and down the country, including me from South London, are excited that this place is open and open for business full time again. I think the biggest part of it all is that, I mean, obviously there's been remedial work done. The platforms look like they've been resurfaced recently, for example. There's new track. And there's a few other improvements here and there, obviously, to get it, race ready. The station still it honestly feels like on the 6th of June 1972, the day after it closed, someone froze it in a, block of carbonite, Han Solo style, and only just got it out again. Like it's just been frozen in time since then. It's incredible to me. Having already been, by the way, to heritage lines like the East Lancs, where their lines shut around the same time. British Rail wasted no time knocking down most of the infrastructure on that line, that they had to build back most of it. It was only Bury Bolton Street that really survived that whole saga intact. And knowing that this thing was shut in 1972, nearly 50 years ago, it feels like I'm here in 1973 and the place just didn't shut. All the green signs, all the old Southern Railway, Southern Region signs. You almost expect a Bully Pacific to trundle in here with the Atlantic Coast Express, which would have happened once upon a time. The bay behind me looks nice. Even this platform 2 technically is not going to be used, and the old buildings on platform 2 here are now used as a museum and a gift shop and a cafe and things like that. The old footbridge is here and all its magnificence. It just looks lovely. It looks great. It does. It really does look fantastic. And ironically, what has ended up saving this line to a degree is what has ended up saving a lot of heritage lines down the years, which is two things. One, the line never shut, just the stations. The line stayed open for the Meldon quarry just up there, which we're going to check out shortly. Because that stayed open to freight traffic, this line stayed open. Ergo, there was a chance for Okehampton to return. But the other reason why we're able to be here today, really, is the work of a lot of volunteers, the work of a lot of people who didn't have to put so much time and effort into saving, preserving, helping maintain this station, even when it didn't seem like there was much purpose in doing so other than to preserve a moment in time. The fact that so many people made so much of an effort to keep this place as it was has enabled this to happen. I don't doubt that there's quite a few people here today that are very happy and very satisfied and very proud. Look at all this effort. It's paid off. I can tell you one thing, I'm very grateful that it has. We're going to go and investigate what's left of the rest of it. Let's have a look.
Today has been all about rebirth and rising again, surviving and persisting through ultimate adversity. Just 2 miles west down the line, however, is a much different scene. Down a single track which belies its former glories and the express main line lies this, the mothballed and overgrown remains of Meldon Quarry. The very thing that kept the line alive for so long, now itself slowly evaporating into history. And with it, the remains of the Heritage Railway. Having taken over operations in 2008, parent company Iowa Pacific Holdings went under in early 2020. And while most of the heritage rolling stock seemed to have found new homes, what was left, as well as the ruined remains of the little Heritage Line station, felt particularly poignant on a day like today. But not nearly as poignant as perhaps the single most incredible epitaph this railway left behind. Just beyond the decaying graveyard of Meldon Quarry stands this, the utterly spectacular and absolutely jaw-dropping Meldon Viaduct. What used to carry express trains to and from Plymouth and the Devon coasts still stands tall some 148 years on from when it first opened for business. Dartmoor spreads out in all directions below, as far as the eye can see. It's honestly breathtaking. It seemed appropriate that in the shadow of this stunning cast iron structure, we take a moment to reflect on the past, the present, and the future that we've seen today.
Well, folks, We made it. We've made it to Meldon. Behind me, just over my shoulder, behind that pillar there, is what's left of Meldon Quarry. And just behind the camera, right there, where that pillar is the start of the Meldon viaduct. Part of the line that used to run from Exeter through Okehampton over this very viaduct all the way down to Berolston, Gunnislake and Plymouth. This was the Southern's way around Dartmoor to Plymouth, and what a way the Southern chose to go. And I'll be honest, this whole section of route, I mean this whole line, this whole walk really kind of shows you how bittersweet today is in the context of regular services returning to Okehampton and Okehampton Station reopening. It was the presence of Meldon Quarry and the freight traffic that it generated. That freight traffic is what kept it open, and ultimately is what gave Okehampton a chance at survival, which it now has. Unfortunately, it seems to have come at a cost, and that cost being Meldon Quarry itself and the Heritage Line operation involved. Let me tell you, there's nothing more quiet than an abandoned railway yard, than an abandoned railway. It really does have the feel of Meldon Quarry walked so Okehampton could run. And then we come on to the Meldon viaduct. Now, I don't really mean to sound like I'm going full hyperbole here or to really exaggerate, but when I walked onto the viaduct, I genuinely was stunned. It might be one of the best views I have ever seen in my life. What a piece of engineering. What a stunning, staggering bit of engineering. But here's the thing, right? This whole line was shut as part of mass cuts in the 1960s. But you've got to understand, there was more at play than just Dr. Richard Beeching and just a mad hatred for railways as a concept. Folks like Ernest Marples, an MP with heavy links to his own road building company. Who do you think would stand to gain after the closure of railways and more traffic going on the roads? There was a hell of a lot of politics behind the scenes going on as well. You remember the Great Central Railway? Part of the reason that was shut down under British Railways, it transferred regions, and the region that it was given to, well, it wasn't theirs. It was made up of people who used to work under the pre-grouping companies, or the pre-nationalisation companies. Their loyalties ran too deep. They didn't care about maintaining someone else's line. That's not our line, this is ours. And for the most part, it seems like a similar thing happened here at this viaduct. This was always London South Western. This was southern territory. This was a southern route. And yet under British Railways, it was handed over to the Western region, which would make sense. They controlled all the railways in Devon and Cornwall. They were given over to that. Except the Western region was mostly made up of former Great Western Railway folks. The London and South Western's bitter rivals. Why on earth would they want to care or tend to a railway that was built to compete with them? It's been noted on more than one occasion that it's a bit of a coincidence that the formerly just structurally fine Meldon Viaduct was quickly declared unsafe for railway working, not long after it was handed over to the Western region. You know, I'm not saying things got that petty, but politics can really get that petty. I think we're all aware of that. And what we're left with is a weird one, because, like, today's obviously a happy day. We're seeing that with all the jubilation of the reopening to Okehampton, and it is, it's an amazing day. Finally, part of those vicious and unnecessary cuts of the 1960s, where so much of the railway network of the country was ripped up. Any small amount of those that can be reversed is altogether a good thing. It's altogether a positive. But coming down here really shows you the kind of scope of what we're looking at here. We're nearly 50 years on, over 50 years on, for the majority of those cuts, for the majority of these line closures. And we're celebrating reopening as far as Okehampton, when not even 2 miles beyond is an abandoned quarry, a magnificent viaduct, which is now just a cycle footpath, and so many more routes beyond. Like I said, don't get me wrong, it's still amazing that we can say that Okehampton is back and we can celebrate the reopening, but wow are we still feeling the effects of well over 50 years ago. And when you place it in a wider context, wow, is there still so much we've lost. For now though, I've got to get back to Okehampton, and it's quite chilly and raining quite a bit. Thankfully, I've got some emergency hot chocolate in my thermos flask. Hopefully that'll keep me warm for the trek back to Okehampton. Okay, so that's our day at Okehampton done.
It is?
How was your stop off at Newton St Cyrus
Yes.
and Crediton? How was that?
Well, Newton St Cyrus, that was interesting.
Okay.
Let's just say that. Crediton, well, it felt like it was there for a mug because there was a tree with like loads of mugs on it.
A mug?
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Notable things about the station. Crediton, there's some mugs on a tree.
Yeah.
So there you go. And we've also been joined by friend of the channel, Nick.
Hello, how you doing, YouTube?
Yes, he's here. What were your first impressions of Okehampton?
It's very nice, very quaint little station.
In general, I think we can
yes.
all agree, Okehampton Station,
Very quaint.
yeah, very good. Yes. We like the fact it's been reopened. We like the station in general. We look forward to visiting it again.
Yes.
Many times. In the meantime, though, we're going to head back to Exeter.
Yeah.
Probably find somewhere for a beer.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys soon along the way.